Computer. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for your patience with that. And hi, I love Tuesdays. They're like my favorite day of the week now. And welcome to class 10. I think many of you have been on this journey since the beginning. So I don't know, I was having a kick today thinking back to class 1, or like that intro class that we had 10 weeks ago at 3 Joules, where I don't know, we were all breathing in the same post yoga sweaty air and like not thinking at all about it, just enjoying, and that closeness. It was really nice to remember. And I still feel it in a certain way, and it's different now, but just that pull that keeps us coming back to this. I'm really grateful, and also amazed at how much can happen in 10 weeks in our realities and in our minds, which are not separate, right? And we're going to just get to dive into that more and more, especially tonight. But I think I wanted to start with like really thinking about those 10 weeks and thinking about it as more than just, okay, you know, a global pandemic dawned and took over the world in that time. But as much news time as you give to that, as much airtime as you give to that, that happening in your world, can you also recall the moments over the last 10 weeks where you looked at your own mind, like where you saw the fear come up or the anxiety come up, and you looked at it right in the eyes and you did something about it? Or those times in the last 10 weeks where you didn't get angry, you exercised that perfection of patience, or you gave something away because you didn't know how else to react in this. You retained some sort of joy despite everything going on. I think all of those, it's also worth recalling them, because that's the only way, by feeding them with our attention, that's the only way they're going to grow. And they deserve as much airtime as this thing that's taking over the world. The external world. What about that internal landscape? So I invite you to kind of keep some of those moments in mind that popped, and maybe reactions. Like, think about, how would you have reacted a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago in this very situation, right? Like, can you think back to what was in your mind then? For me, that has been really interesting. Just today, I've been reflecting on it a lot. Like, what would I have done? Because the experience you're having right now of this moment is yours, and yours alone. No one else is having that. So as we enter class, take this as the start of the meditation, and we're going to let it glide us into the mandala offering. Those starting to connect as much as you can these lists that we're going over, these slides that we go over in these classes, to actual movements of your own mind in response to the things coming up in your world. So with that, let's just collectively set motivation and get into the sweetest frame of mind for experiencing these ideas. So I'll invite you to just take a meditation posture, casual, comfortable, joyful. Start to deepen the breath as a marker between whatever came before in your day and now. Just inviting the sounds of your surroundings. I can hear my family making dinner. Maybe you can too. Staying with that nice even breath, beginning to gather the mind around the present moment. and acknowledging that having these precious minutes together is a privilege. So I invite you to step into the mind with which you'd like to hear the Dharma. The mind where each word lands like a personalized instruction. A mind hungry to serve the world, this very world, and develop an unconditional love for all beings. And just a mini rejoicing now, rewinding back a few weeks and just recalling any moments where you really were able to connect some idea, some vow that we studied, some aspect of emptiness, or some truth of karma and the way the mind moves to your specific reality. Anytime you fought laziness or anger, starting to color the mind with those moments, and hopefully experiencing a sense of joy arising. And holding that joy, expanding it, allowing yourself to imagine a perfect world. We'll begin the mandala offering, asking our minds, bribing our minds really with this vision, and in exchange, experiencing exactly what we need to hear in this moment. So seeing if you can hold that wish through the chant. Sashi Puki Jixing Metok Cham Ram Lingshin Inde Yampadi Sanye Shindu Mikte Warki Drokun Namdak Shingla Drupar Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kam Niryataya Sangye Chudam Soki Choknam Jangchub Bardu Dakni Kapsu Chi Daki Chinyen Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Drupar Sangye Chidam Soki Choknam Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kapsu Chi Daki Chinyen Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Drupar Sangye Chidam Soki Choknam Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kapsu Chi Daki Chinyen Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Drupar Okay. Okay, so hopefully that triggered at least a moment of it's like we were checking on our garden just then, you know, like going into the soil of our mind and being like, okay, let me try to remember those, the biggest seeds that I planted, right? The most beautiful things that I pressed into that soil. And just checked on that basically, and use that as an offering for then what's to come, to help kind of to help keep it sweet, to help make it mean something. And we're going to start, as we usually do, by reviewing last week's content through the quiz. And it's actually a really short quiz. It's just 2 questions. So I'm going to split us up into 2 groups. As per usual, whatever breakout room you're in, that's the number of the question. And we've had a pretty good track record. This has worked out. So let's start there. And then we'll come back together and go into class 10. Okay, let's see if I can figure this out. Breakout rooms. Oops.
Then you have unconscious. Oh, teacher's here.
No,
water anymore.
I'm stuck in the ether if I don't just assign myself to a breakout room. Oh, I was lonely.
What were you saying, Zai?
I was just saying at the beginning of MTT it was clear, and it's also clear in any other like class that I take where, well, that's 3 joules oriented, where it's really easy at the beginning for me to be like, I don't know what it is about that person, but I don't think we'll get along. And then like towards the end of the class, I'm just like falling in love with every single person until suddenly you're in a group and you're like, I love everyone in this group. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Inevitable. At 3 joules.
Hi, Mike.
He said. All right, so what's our question?
Describe the 5 steps involved in keeping the Bodhisattva vows well. Is that right?
No, that sounds like class 10.
Oh.
Are you on the class 10 quiz? Class 9 quiz, it should be the two
states of mind.
Yeah.
Two states of mind, and the other 2 states of mind that often occur as motivations for committing the secondary offenses.
UTS. And just remember, talk, explain, debate for a few minutes, and then just have someone in mind to share out with the rest of the group when we're back.
Okay.
Toodles.
I nominate Sarah.
Me to share?
Yeah, that sounds good. That feels right.
The way I think about it is like if someone is telling me something they really enjoy, like someone told me that they did something that they really enjoyed, and then I put in my 2 cents by being like, yeah, well, I did this and had this much more enjoyment. So it's like making them regret.
Oh, it's you, Jane.
Sorry, I don't know why. I guess this is my work account. Sorry.
No, good. I was just like, I think I trust Village helps.
Sorry.
No, you're all good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Sorry for being late, just coming from another meeting.
No, all good. We're actually in breakout rooms doing the quiz, so I tried to assign you to one. Let me see. Maybe I'll just move you to the other one and see if that triggers it.
We can just chat.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. Sometimes these classes start and I just like lose the ability to speak, and I'm like, oh, this is really bad timing. If you just like.
Really? I couldn't imagine.
You just get tongue-tied, and I'm like, wow. But it makes me think about having more of a practice around speech, how important it is. It's easy to just run my mouth, and then I'll get to moments like this where I want to be careful about every word I say. So it's like I have to. The only way that happens is if I'm always careful about every word I say.
Totally. Yeah. It's all a habit. It was fun.
Oh,
you go?
I was going to say, how was the rest of the IG Live yesterday? I was able to join for the first few minutes before.
It's good. I don't love the IG Live, I have to say.
Yeah.
I actually feel like I found it easier at the beginning versus like finding it easier but I think that's good. It's good to be like challenged, and be like, oh, why is this so challenging? Because like at the beginning I felt like, oh, this is so easy, but
yeah,
I think it's also just like the more you repeat something, the more you expect from yourself as well. So it's just but it's good. I appreciate the practice and the feedback a lot. Like just like you're saying, if you don't practice it, then you're like, what you practice is what you're going to do. So like the more you can practice, the better.
Totally. And I feel like this experience, it's gonna feel so sweet when you're back with people in a room.
With humans.
All the stuff we took for granted, you're just gonna be like, yes, thank God I can sit in a room with people and we can not speak and our eyes can be closed and we can meditate like that. You know?
Yeah, totally.
So.
Yeah. It's been nice though. I've definitely meditated a lot more in this time, which is cool.
That's
like removing transit time and I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't believe this is our final class.
Final class 10.
What happened? What's next?
We're going to do a final exam review.
Yeah.
So that'll be next week, and then I'll announce it to the group too, but I was going to ask Hector if he could do something special for us. And then after that, I don't know. It's like the plan, I think, was to just keep going, but I don't know, what that will look like.
Would you teach again?
I'd love to. Yeah, it's not, I don't know if it's entirely up to me or not. So I'm happy to. I'd love to. I've learned so much each class, and it's like I was talking to Hector today. I feel like I have all these vows that like I knew I had them, but getting to show up in this way, I actually get to practice them. You know,
my God, there are so many.
What do you mean?
There are so many of them, and they're so like intricate. I'm like, I kind of, that surprised me. I was like, oh shoot, like,
yeah.
How do you keep track of them?
So there's a system, and actually we're gonna go over it because you just add it to your 6 times a day book. So you're only still checking always 6 vows a day, like explicitly checking. Obviously you're gonna have them in the back of your mind, right? So like when you see the saffron robe, maybe it'll just pop into your mind. Oh, okay, I have that vow about what to keep in my mind when I see the color saffron and why, right? It might, even though it might not be the vow you're checking. But the idea is with the 6 times practice, it keeps it nice and clean that you're only really accountable for 6 vows a day. So you can handle that.
Yeah.
And then you're just cycling through. So
right.
like it'll take us a month to cycle through all of our vows, right? Because we have the 12 refuge, the 10 non-virtues. So that's 22 plus the 64 that we just studied.
Yeah. And then the yamas and niyamas, do you add those into yours?
So those are covered through the 10 non-virtues.
But they're slightly different, aren't they?
They are.
Like friendliness, like, but you're saying they just like match up?
That's how we do it. Yeah. Like if you're taking vows, you automatically take on the 10 non-virtues. So unless you're like specifically doing a yama niyama practice, you could add that, but that's, yeah.
Got it.
Most of them are covered, right?
But there's like the specific one of like personal practice and like teacher and like cleanliness.
Yeah. Like sense withdrawal, some of those aren't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess different system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to get to practice those. Like Rose Erin has us keep them during her training.
Yeah, we did too. Are you doing it with the YTT?
With the YTT, we're doing a 6 times book. We're using the 10 non-virtues.
So yeah, we did yamas and niyamas.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you if you're...
No, I'm chilling. We're in the ether. Hi, Kirby. Everyone's in the breakout rooms. I'm going to give them like another 2 minutes and then I'll go to the breakout rooms and they'll come.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go through it. But yeah, I don't know what's in the future for virtual Dharma. I don't know. Well, and that's what I'm hoping, like the next 2 classes we'll have more time to discuss sort of if it's working or not, how it's landing.
Honestly, for me, like it's so much better because I don't know, I just normally like shut my brain off at this time of night. And so the idea for me of being like in the city, which is an hour commute to where I live, until 9:30, like I sort of hit like 9 p.m. in this class and I'm like, oh, stay awake or like stay like alert. That's just my timing schedule. But So I don't know. I'm a vote for. I like the online version.
I like it too, and I do really feel connected to everyone, but I do miss
Yeah.
the personal exchange a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely a bummer. What is the next course? The next one?
It's Death in the Realms. So
Feels relevant.
it's gonna be intense.
Well, that's like in line with the Wheel of Life now as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like a whole class on hot hells and then a whole class on the cold hells. It's intense. But I do think I think it's a beautiful reminder, and it is still full of possibility. It's not, it's like, yeah, and for me, it gave me a framework with which to think about death.
Totally.
Or when I just was like, nope, mind, not going to go there. Like,
are you doing the Wheel of Life as well?
I'm not following along as well as I'd like to, but I am registered for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have more time soon.
I hope so. Yeah, I watched the first video and it was beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna close the rooms, bring people back. Let's see how this goes. Oh, am I still sharing my screen?
I can't.
Okay, then no. There we go. Welcome back.
Howdy doody.
How'd it go? Is that enough time?
It's always more than enough time, which is always good.
Okay, good. Good. Do we lose anyone in the ether? Or no? Diego. Sorry, you were in the waiting room during the mandala offering. Your timing was auspicious. You arrived right after we called for you. Okay, so let's get a representative from breakout room 1, question 1. Remind us all of the question, please. And then talk us through wherever your group arrived at.
Oops, I was muted. I was in breakout group one. And what was the question? No idea. I also don't know the answer. I'm just kidding.
Do you want me to read the question?
I know it. I'm teasing. Oh, actually, yeah, that would be helpful.
I can read the question and you can give the answer.
Okay, let's play role play.
Yeah,
You be teacher. I'll be student.
I'm into it. Let's do it. Name the 2 states of mind and other 2 states of mind that often occur as motivations for committing the secondary offenses.
Ah, yes. I feel like I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I'm gonna be a millionaire. It is divided between an afflicted mind and a non-afflicted mind. Those are the 2 separate states of mind. So in an afflicted mind, some would be malice, like wanting to hurt someone, like actively, physically, or anger. And then a non-afflicted mind would be regular laziness, like doing something without, basically just like knowing that it's not going to cause virtue in your life, and you're like addicted to that. And then spiritual laziness would be like not rejoicing, kind of, maybe. I don't know. I think that's my answer. Okay. Let me know if that's right or wrong. Bye.
There's no right or wrong. I mean, I'm curious if anyone else have any other takes or thoughts on that based on last week's discussion, or something that you discovered through your own practice. Yeah, Zoe.
Was that a question?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Can you say it again?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, open to conversation. There's no, I don't want us to think about like, I know there's a right answer on the homework, on the answer key. But I feel like this one's important even before you actually take the vows. And the reason is, one way to think about these vows is like they're the bridge, right? That take our minds from where they are now to an enlightened mind, right? Like, how do you get from point A to point B? In this case, it's like, use the vows. Let the ground you step on be the vows. And it's beautiful that like these things come up because these are the attitudes that would cause one to break the vows, right? So as you develop the muscle of keeping them, of doing the opposite of these things, you're also removing that negativity from your mind. Right? Like it's so hard to conceptualize enlightenment. Sometimes you have to think about it as, what is it the removal of, right? And enlightenment is the removal of any afflicted state of mind, any affliction, anything that's bothering your mind, any negative emotion, as well as this sort of regular laziness that we have, this addiction to the creature comforts of the world,
TikTok.
way to think about it, or a spiritual laziness, like, or the belief that we can't do it, like that there isn't that goal isn't worth pursuing. That's what I would think of as spiritual laziness here, right? If you really truly woke up every day and was like, okay, today my aim is to love all beings as purely as I can and hold this view of karma and emptiness in every action, because it's gonna get me enlightened. It's gonna plant the causes for me to get enlightened. That's how you break through that spiritual laziness, right? Is you keep that goal bright in your mind.
Was that a question?
That was not a question.
Okay. I'm like, dang, did I miss it again? Okay, thank you.
That was not a question. Do people feel good about this first one? We're going to go more into how to break vows today.
What was your question about how it applies to our life? Just where we see this?
Yeah, I just was opening up the discussion. If anyone wants to chime in, you can.
Yeah.
I think, well, Emmett had alluded to the fact that laziness is coming from a non-afflicted state of mind. I don't know if I feel like I agree with what Emmett was saying before, that somehow laziness is still an affliction of my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talked about this, right? Because like in ACI 10, 11, 12, Bodhisattva's Guide to the Way of Life, laziness is an affliction. Lay low. It actually is a mental affliction. So that that's always come up for me. I don't know here why it's not, like why it's divided this way as mental afflictions. I think they're just keeping it as, I don't know, clear cut as possible. And they're saying the main mental afflictions that would cause you to break a vow are wanting to hurt someone or being angry. And it's a different energy, that energy of laziness, that would also maybe cause you to slip up, but it's a different effect. It's a different result too, right? To just forget about it or be lazy about it versus being like, no, I want to harm life. I want to steal, right?
As we learn the vow, like more and more of the vows and how you could break the vows, I keep getting less, I keep believing in myself less and less, thinking that I could even take vows. I'm like, dang, well, I'm definitely gonna do that one week one, maybe day one. Like, it's getting harder and harder, and I'm sure it's that way for a reason, but I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I think we're going to cover it actually a little bit today, because we've talked for most of the course about what it takes to break a vow. But today we get to talk about what does it take to keep vows sweetly. And I think what you'll find is you already have those attitudes. Like the same way that you think, oh, I already have the things in me that would break the vows, you also already have the things in you that would hold the vows really totally precious. Like both of those options are available to you. And then you get to decide which one do you want to grow. But I know so far in the course, we've talked a lot about how to break them. But today we're going to talk about how to keep them. And also remember, right, we had that whole class on, there's a difference between damaging the vow, damaging the promise in your mind, and entirely breaking it. And I would continue to feel very confident that actually breaking a vow with all 4 chains present, right? Remember that class? That's actually very difficult to do, or you have to really know that you're doing it. You have to decide, hey, I'm breaking this vow today. I'm not saying a mind couldn't get up to that point, but I don't think it's just something that would happen because you slipped up a little. Okay, let's move to question 2. Someone from breakout room 2. And so for a little bit of context here, remember this was one of those, we've gone over all of the technical Bodhisattva vows, and then these are like those et ceteras that we got, kind of the addendums to the lists. So these 8, or really 4 and 4, black and white deeds, they're sort of implied vows that you take on when you take on Bodhisattva vows.
Thanks for clarifying that. That was actually a question that I had, like how they fit in.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, so there's 4, and the first one is the black deed is knowingly deceiving your lama. The anecdote is never speak a lie to another being, even in jest. Number 2, get anyone to regret something virtuous they have done is the black deed. And then the white deed anecdote is try to get people to practice Bodhisattva ideal. 3, the black deed is saying something unpleasant to a Bodhisattva out of anger. Or white deed is see the purity. This is a very important practice. Because
You're getting all robotic.
sorry. Does it work?
Yeah, now you're good.
The fourth black deed is to be devious or deceitful to any being with a bad motivation. And then the white deed or anecdote is be totally honest and straightforward with every being you meet.
I liked that instead of saying antidote, you said anecdote, because it made me think, well, it actually made me think of Zoe's question. Like if I were to look at this list, I would feel very confident saying all of you have not necessarily done any of those black deeds. Let's say in the last 24 hours. I don't think you have. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. But the antidotes, the anecdotes, I feel like you could think of situations where you did that in the last 24 hours. When did you just think, when did you speak the truth, even if it was hard? Say something honestly. Or when did you get people to practice the Bodhisattva ideal? What does that mean? When did you remind someone that they are responsible for their experience of reality in the most kind way possible, right? That, hey, things don't exist out there. Things aren't happening to you. You have complete responsibility and power in your world. You can change what's going on in here, and you are forced to experience something else going on out there. And as a result of that, well, let's take care of other people. Let's remember that everyone's in this boat together. So getting people to practice the Bodhisattva ideal, that can be as simple as saying something you know someone else needed to hear, putting their minds at ease. Seeing the purity, as Mackenzie said, a really important practice. Does anyone remember like what that meant? Or if not, what is confusing about it?
Is it seeing everything as a lesson, even if it's something that may be negative in your mind? Like try to see the purity in every single experience or moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like see everything as sunshine and rainbows. right? It's not that. It's not saying, let me wishful thinking, right? Of seeing everything as pure and enlightened, because it's not, right? We're in a global pandemic. There are thousands of people suffering and dying every day. So what's seeing the purity there? It's what Mackenzie's saying is, how can I see every message, every movement in my reality as a instruction, as a reminder of, hey, wake up to what's going on, wake up to what you can do about it. And it's having that pronoia, right? That spiritual pronoia of always feeling not paranoia, not like, oh, everyone's out to get me, but the pronoia, the opposite of that, of everyone's out to help me. Every situation's trying to show me something about my own mind, right? Because the crux of this philosophy is what I show to my mind through what I say, through what I think about, and through what I do has an effect. And the place it has an effect is my world. My world is a reflection of my mind. I see who I am. That's it. And so seeing the purity, it's trying to hold that view sustained throughout everything. Can the experience of drinking a cup of tea be just as enlightening as sitting in meditation with your teacher or coming to a Dharma class? All things being empty of a nature from their own side, how would a mind that's woken up to things, that only has love and wisdom running through the mind, how would they experience the world? Sorry, I just dumped a lot of things in there, so hopefully I didn't confuse it more. But the crux of that practice is basically always being suspicious that there's something going on. There's something more going on than what it seems to be. And like Mackenzie said, everything's a message. And then the last one, right? Antidote, be totally honest and straightforward with every being you meet. I think this is particularly important as a Dharma student, especially if Hector talked about this when he taught this course. And it was cool. He was talking about, he also had like this group of Dharma junkies. Like, you guys are doing a lot. I know a lot of you are doing Wheel of Life and ACI 1, and you're in the mentorship, and you're doing a lot. And what are you doing to keep Dharma sweet, right? In your mind, are you like, okay, here I go, I'm logging on to hear about karma and emptiness again, or hear about another list? Or can you think back to that time when like Dharma is totally electric, this philosophy of you can completely transform everything because everything is up for transformation because it's empty of a nature. And so part of the way I think about this one is, unless I am constantly speaking truth, I cannot perceive truth coming back to me. Right? I think like I just connect honesty and truth a lot with my ability to experience Dharma or wisdom, some sort of wisdom that underlies all things. How does this feel? These 4 black and white deeds? Okay, I see a thumbs up from Zilzils. Okay, beautiful. So one thing I want to do before we go into class 10 content, which is really fun, but I want to remind, so birthday girl Zoe, if all of you didn't know, is also like the course assistant and has been grading and keeping track of everything for this course, which is amazing, and a huge thank you to her for that. And it's really nice to know that a lot of you are keeping up with the homeworks and the quizzes to sort of be on track for that certification, which is partly it's a certification and partly it's the confidence that you have of, if you choose to take on these promises, you know what you're signing up for, right? In your own mind. So you can have that confidence of having studied them. But I want to just remind everyone that so 2 things Zoe reminded me to say. One is continue to submit your homework directly to the Google Drive. And I include that link in all my emails, or you can just follow up with me or ACI@3joules.org. But you can just directly upload those into the Google Drive. That will make Zoe's life easier. And please remember that as part of every homework, there is a meditation assignment. And that's really important. Like, that's the internal, that's your internal like debate ground, basically, you know, where you go in and you're like, okay, do I buy it? Do I buy it that the things I think about eventually snowball into the reality I experience? Do I buy it? Like, is that, you know, that's where you can hear about it all you want, but the meditation, that's where it sinks in. And so it's really nice. Each class has like a dedicated meditation relevant to the content. So I listed them here for you. And the other thing I want to remind you all is I'm happy to accept half of these meditations as a promise of, or like, you don't have to submit your 6 times a day book. We're going to go into what that is, but you can do them as a 6 times a day book, right? Because if you notice, half the meditations here, all the things that say review medi, which just means a review meditation is like you have a list and you're in your mind, you're going backwards and forwards through the list. And you're thinking about how each item applies to your life, right? That's what you're doing in a 6 times a day book. So if you can tell me or Zoe that, okay, for those meditations for class 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9, I kept my 6 times a day book. I would accept that as doing the meditation. And the thing, so yeah, Allison, totally hear your question, and I want to address that because I know a lot of you are doing a lot of classes that all have a lot of homework and a lot of different types of meditations. So that's why I also encourage 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9 to do it as part of your 6 times a day book, because then hopefully it's not something you're adding, right? Like, you're already keeping a book to watch your mind and keep your morality. So that it's just inherent in there. But these meditations are supposed to be short, right? It's like 10 minutes per meditation, 3 times per class. So like that would be 1 30-minute meditation or 3 10-minute sits. So that's the way I would think about it. Or it could be a contemplation. So I used to do these. I know we don't have subway commutes anymore, but you can do them as you're washing the dishes. You're like, okay, I have 5 to 10 minutes at the sink. Or as you're doing laundry, okay, as I'm doing laundry, I'm going to think about what the experience of taking vows in the ceremony would be. I'm going to try to remember that class. I'm going to remember all the steps that we talked about, the inner motivation I was supposed to have as I'm doing my laundry, as I'm sweeping the floor. That's fine. It's just, you have all these mental movements every day, right? 65 a second, all day long. All we're saying with this is dedicate some of those to thinking about stuff from this course. Do it when you have tea in the morning. Do it as you're making bread. Everyone seems to be making bread these days, or cleaning, or like all these things that we're having to do. Just let your mind think about it like a podcast that you're playing to yourself, right? Totally fine to do this as a contemplation. Yeah, I don't want this to be like another thing that you have to do. Can we submit it as a 30-minute? Yes, you can tell us. So you can say, okay, yeah, I did 30 minutes analytical meditation on the relation of the 3 sets of vows. And you write that at the bottom of the homework. And then Zoe will know and she'll mark it. So I'm going to go over, unless I get thumbs up from, does everyone feel really confident about a 6 times a day practice? And they're like, yes, I've heard that a bajillion times. I know how to do it. Anyone want a little refresher on what that means? Speak now. Yes, little refresher? Okay, cool. So we'll do it. I've sent these slides around. I'm happy to share them again. So a 6 times a day book, it's actually the thing that creates your vows, right? Like, we talked about this before, but you don't have your vows just because you went to a ceremony and someone gave them to you, right? Like, they're not things you can keep in your pocket. Oh, there are my vows. You get your vows by creating them. You create your vows by checking your mind for whether they're there or not. That's why the book practice exists. There's no other reason. I know it's seemingly annoying to have a little book that you carry around and check 6 times a day, but it doesn't have to be that. Tala got kicked out. So let's go into it. It really is like a mind archaeology. That's how Hector describes it. It's like you're digging into your mind to be like, what's in there? And you're just doing it 6 times a day. That's all I'm asking. So the way you do a 6 times a day book, first you need like a list of things that you're checking, right? And so in this example, I use the 10 virtues and non-virtues, which we've gone over. So you see the list of 10, right? That's here on the left side. To do a 6 times a day practice, you're just cycling through all of the vows. So for example, here you say, day 1, I'm going to check myself on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Day 2, I'm going to check 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. The cycle starts again. Day 3, I'm going to check 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you keep going. Now, these are just the 10 non-virtues, right? But we are studying 46 plus 18, right? 64. We studied 64 more vows in this class, right? So imagine that you have those 10, and then you start a list of 1 through 64. Right? Do you see how that goes? So if I were to do the 6 times a day book for in this way, you could do something like day 1, 1 through 6 of the 10 non-virtues. Day 2, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the non-virtues, and then Bodhisattva Vows 1, 2. Day 3, Bodhisattva Vows 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and up until 64. Do you see what I mean? You're just rotating through. Oops, Allison got kicked out. Could someone who's a co-host just watch the waiting room for me? I don't know why people are getting kicked out. So that's the rhythm. And then you get the little book. You get the little book and you actually take note of basically what you're doing is a positive, a negative, and a to-do for each of the vows. And it's like a little mini contemplation, right? First you see the vow and you remember what it means. Okay, vow 1, protecting life. Why am I thinking about protecting life? Well, if everything that I press into my mind eventually has a result, then I better start watching out for other forms of life that I interact with, and whether I'm helping them or hurting them. Because I am a form of life. And the result is going to come it's going to come right here. The degree to which I protect other lives is the degree to which I don't get sick. It's that type of correlation. So you're thinking about that, and then you're coming up with an example. Or you're not coming up, you're looking into your mind and revealing an example. Oh, I made a really nourishing lunch for my family. That's protecting their life. Cool. Negative. This is hard because I didn't actually do this. I saw the cutest little bunny in my family's garden, and I don't even know, because this isn't a negative. I actually really took care of that bunny when I saw it earlier. What would be a negative for protecting life? I
saw it on the stairs and didn't pick it up.
Sure, that's the classic one. Or, I see that my friend has a bad habit with some sort of substance that's slowly killing her body, and I'm not saying anything about it, right? To do, going to talk to my friend about how to better take care of her health. You come up with these examples.
Or like you accidentally kill a bug.
Yes. And so what's cool about this is and so that it doesn't feel, I don't know, for me in the beginning, it felt very juvenile. And I was like, why am I having to write in this little book 6 times a day? And it started to transform for me when the way I sort of started thinking about it was what I'm writing in my book, it isn't even English. It's not the language that we're using here right now. of like just the things I'm doing. Oh, I squashed the bug. I made dinner for my family. It's less about that, and it's more about the language that your mind speaks in, which is motivation, right? Why did you make food for your family? What was in your mind when you slapped the bug? Was it careless, or was it, ugh, stupid bug, you're sucking my blood, and you wanted to harm it, right? You have to get to that. That's what you're writing in this book, because that's the thing that, first of all, that's the thing that only you're aware of, right? No one else knows the why behind what you're doing. It can look like you're sewing masks for hundreds of healthcare workers, but in your mind, are you like, oh, I hope I get famous from this? Or are you thinking, let every stitch be an act, a radical act of protecting life in the best way I know how to? From the outside, both of those actions, it's going to look the same. It's going to look like you're sitting on a machine sewing masks. So what you're recording in this book is that motivation. It's that intention. The language your mind speaks, and it's the thing that creates the karmas, the movements of your mind that then spit out onto your reality. You get to know that language, you have the code to rewrite your reality. Right? It's like learning a programming language. It's like this is how you do it. Forget about the appearances, get to the source. Rewrite that, the appearances will change. That's what you're recording in your book. For me, once I got to that, it became really exciting. And I started using all this like shorthand. And if you read my book, like it's not going to make sense probably, because it's like this language of motivation. Like, what's the exact flavor of motivation behind what I'm doing? So anyways, day one, I'm going to share this out. Oh, I should have just clicked next. I have examples here. But here you go. Made a ginger shot for my roomie, accidentally squished a bug. But you have examples here of just the vows 1 through 6, and then you would cycle through. So here, this shows you, okay, day 2, I'm going to do 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, if I were just doing these 10. And then I keep cycling through. So I bring this up because half of the meditations for this course, if you do them as keeping your book for a day, and just keep your book with those vows, right? So see here, it says, meditation number 4, review meditation on vows 1 through 9. Perfect. I'm going to keep a 6 times a day book for 2 days. First day, I'll do root vows 1 through 6. Second day, I'll do root vows 7, 8, 9, and then 1, 2, 3 again. Did I do that math right? Yeah. Yeah, cool. Boom, 2 days done. I'm done with that meditation. Does that make sense? And I mean, so yes, you're checking the box on the meditation. You're also developing the muscle of a practice that it's fundamental. It's essential. It's not gonna, how do I put this? The only way to know if you are practicing morality, if you are keeping your promises, the most ultimate one of being the promise to get the wish to get enlightened for the sake of all beings, is to check your mind for whether that promise is there or not. It's the only way. It's actually really beautiful that we have access to this practice, because it's a very advanced, traditionally secret practice that it's beautiful that we get it now, actually. Like, to have that, you hear these lofty ideas, oh, enlightenment's possible. How? This is how. The fact that we just get access to it, it's amazing. So I ask you to play with it. It's really cool. If you don't have a 6 times a day book yet, let's talk offline, or there's a lot of people on here that have been doing this practice and can share more. Emmett and Michael McSwain are 2 of my recommendations. And Jeremy.
There's this term in business, you can't, what is it? You can't, something that you can't measure.
Yeah, you become what you measure.
You
right?
you can't manage what you don't measure. So you can't manage what's going on in your mind if you don't have like a book or something that's tracking it.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's my ode to the book.
Supriya, I don't know if you can totally defer this to a separate conversation if we don't want to have it now. But there's a few people in the chat and I have the same feeling, which is like, it feels very awkward at first and like hard to even think of things.
Yes.
Like it feels kind of false, and like any advice on how to get through that?
Yes, it's actually beautiful because it's where I was going to go next. Okay, well, if you haven't noticed yet, there's a dance theme going on in these slides, right? And I was doing it partially because I think it's beautiful, and it felt like a way to express myself and a part of myself I'm reconnecting with, actually, dance. But it also is the way I think about vows. And I'll tell you why. What we're learning to do is essentially we're learning how to dance. Like we're learning these new moves or postures with our minds. And if you've ever learned something before, forget about whether it's dance, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, a new language, horse riding, how to ride a bike, how to swim, right? Do you remember before it became muscle memory, how awkward it felt? Right? Think about your job. Think about riding the subway, right? Like before it just became like you knew it like the back of your hand. Wherever you are in New York, you know where to get to on the line that you need, right? Remember the moments where you had to like pull up the app or like pull up the little map and be like, okay, what do I need to do? So it's going to feel like that in the beginning. I think it always does. Anytime you're learning a new posture, that's what's going to happen. But then you've had proof in your life about how with practice, it not only becomes natural, it becomes joyful, right? I mean, for me, dance is the perfect example of that. Like, yes, first I have to learn the moves and I have to drill them and they're boring and they're annoying. But then one day you have that breakthrough. Maybe it's on stage, maybe it's in a rehearsal, maybe it's the joy of dancing for yourself where something else gets to move through you. Right? It's because of all the practice. It's because it's been built into your body and your mind. But it will feel natural. You don't even have to think about it and you're moving. You're doing and you're delighting others. That's what, and then you get to that stage, right? Of how can you move past the awkwardness where it becomes so natural that not a performance in like a performative sense, but a performance in the sense of you move people's hearts by sharing that gift. I think that's what vows get to do to us too. And you imagine having such a mind that's so steeped in this stuff. You're so solid. You're so clean in your own conscience that when you show up for others, you're really there for them. You can really give them what they need. You can really make them happy. So my answer to that, and Hector says it too, is it's gonna feel contrived until it doesn't feel contrived. And that's also because the vows, and we've talked about this, are totally empty of a nature from their own side as well. Right? They're words that we're studying, or they're an idea in your mind. They don't have a nature that's being forced on you. You're creating your experience of them. You're coding them into your mind. You're pressing them into your mind. And then you're returning to them day after day. Hopefully you're returning to them with this energy of like, oh, I made that promise. Oh, I had that ceremony. Oh, I'm creating this being that is the Bodhisattva version of me. So they have all this charge. We know that stronger charge, stronger karmic result. So the vows, your relationship to the vows are going to start to change. They might at first feel like things you have to do, or awkward moves, or lists of things I have to follow. But hopefully they will, as you practice them, become this choreography that you can design to create what you want to see in your world. Does that help at all? I hope it does. But short answer, yes, they did feel awkward in the beginning. But now they feel, for me, like, they feel like old friends that like I get to meet every day. I get to meet 6 of them. I get to like chat with them and catch up, you know? Yeah, in a way, that's how they feel. And here's another reason, and then we'll get started on class 10 content, is don't, if there's any part of you that feels like a different list is gonna work, give it your best shot there, right? Like, we're learning a particular list. This is a list for how to get enlightened for the sake of all beings. That's what the vows are. There's other lists out there. You know, if you think that that sort of everlasting happiness, that sort of purpose in your life will come from the list of how to get wealthy or how to get famous or how to get that body, those lists exist out there. And like Hector said it too when he taught this class, like, if there's any part of you that's doubting that this is going to work, go spend time there first. See if that's going to give you any results. And most probably you're going to get beaten down, and then arrive to these, you know, because what's so beautiful about the vows is that it doesn't leave any room for something outside of you to have power over you, right? It's saying like complete and total responsibility in your mind. There's nothing out there. There's no obtaining something on a different list that's going to get you the result you want in a way that lasts. That's going to get you something that doesn't, you know, the beauty's going to fade, the wealth's going to fade. So that's one reason. The other reason is if they don't work, at least you're going to become a nicer person. If nothing else, you know, like for me, sometimes I was like, okay, I don't know, like if these are going to get me enlightened or not, but I definitely am a better person to be around. And then they changed, and they got even more elevated, and that just happens with keeping them. Okay, is that we'll get more into it, but it's a beautiful question, Kelly, and I hope you keep contemplating it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go. So here for you, Zoe, we've talked so much about how to break your vows. Here we get to talk about how to keep your vows well. And in the same way that breaking your vows, right, what was the thing that broke the vows? It was mental attitudes, right? These mental chains, 4 chains we call them. And it's the same thing. It's 5 mental attitudes that if those things are in your mind, it's going to be easy to keep your vows. It's going to feel sweet to keep them. It's not even going to just feel easy. It's going to feel exhilarating to get to keep them. So, number 1, oops. Okay, so number 1 is Sungla in Tibetan, and it's respecting the speech of the Buddha. So connecting this to why would this help me keep my vows well, right? Respecting the speech of the Buddha, or the speech of a mind that's woken up, the speech of any enlightened mind. So the first thing we're remembering is, where does this list come from? Where do these vows come from? They are the spoken instruction manual from from a mind that's gotten there. Right? If you remember that, when you see it pop up on your list, oh, okay, I have to protect life. Can you remember it like, okay, and a mind that was able to evolve, basically, right? Like if you can think about what's the highest evolution of a mind, right? And you can take your own mind as an example. Go back to that, what we asked ourselves in the start of class. How would you deal with the global pandemic 5 years ago? right? I'm not saying you would have dealt with it, but you would have dealt with it at the capacity that your mind was then. I know 5 years ago, I definitely didn't think about other people as much as I do now. I definitely didn't think that I was responsible for my world. I would have made it through the pandemic somehow, but it would have been a very different experience. So if your mind can evolve, just notice how much your mind can evolve from some prior moment till now, and carry that evolution even further. What if you could remove all forms of laziness completely from your mind, and anger and doubt? That evolution, that awakened, enlightened mind, are you remembering daily that these vows that you're keeping track of, it's not just a list, it's actually this personal gift from a mind that's gotten there. A mind that the only thing in that mind is compassion, right? The only thing is they want others to get to that state. And the only thing they can do is teach, is share how they got there, right? An enlightened mind can't enlighten you by tapping you on the head or just showing up in your life. If they had that power, they would have already done it. And it doesn't mean they're not going to try. And it doesn't mean you actually can't create that experience for yourself, right? But it's going to be a cause in you. And these vows, it's a hint. Every day, 6 times a day, you're getting this hint of a message that's literally traveled through space and time to get to your mind, your specific mind. And the way I see this show up, which is like what's removed so much doubt for me, is it's uncanny sometimes how the timing of a vow will coincide with what's going on in my day at that moment. So what I mean is, I hope you all get to this experience. Like, I have a group that we took vows together. We have this message, like a group message going, and we send notifications 6 times a day to remind ourselves of the vows, right? So we're on this cycle together. So it's really beautiful because you get to help other people keep their vows. But it's uncanny. I'll be sitting down to eat and I'll get the vow pop up on my phone saying, remember to dedicate the first bite of any food or drink, right? Remember to think of, as I eat this otherwise empty substance, let it be nourishment so that I can show up for someone. I have the energy to show up for someone else in my life. Or like all sorts of things like that, where it's like the vows, it really does, it becomes this, it's this uncanny personalized message for what's going on exactly in your life in that moment. And I think that comes from respecting where they come from, who spoke them. And that's also going to be the thing that transforms them in your mind, right? If you truly can get the belief that 6 times a day, you're getting a personal message from God, whatever that means for you, right? From the highest evolution of a mind, then what is that going to do to your awareness as you're following that instruction? Right? It's going to be different. That meal that I eat, that first bite that I eat, is going to be different from every other bite in that meal. Different cause, different result. Bigger cause, like promise, like vow cause, bigger result, faster result. So first, to keep the vows of your vows well, Sungla Gupa, respecting that they're coming from straight from the mouth of an enlightened being. Then, secondly, it's actually a list of 3 within the second one. To keep your vows well, Sampa Sum, have the 3 intentions. So, oh, bye, Adam. Nice to see you. 3 intentions. The first one is you intend to follow the vows. Like, you know, you could be taking this class just for intellectual interest, and that's fine. But there's a difference between studying the vows because, oh, I want to study them and I want to become an expert on, you know, Mahayana morality and find distinctions between the vows. That's one motivation. Or you have the intention of, I want to study them because I want to follow them. Like, I want to keep them. And not follow them like you follow something on Instagram and then it's in your scroll and right, it's in your feed and you just scroll through it every day. It's a different type of following of, I want to follow them as in I want to keep them sweetly in my mind. I want them to grow in my mind. So I intend to follow them. I intend to follow them so that I can reach Buddhahood. Right? Like, I intend to follow them so I can get happy in an ultimate sense. I can be free from the suffering of things changing all the time. The good stuff and the bad stuff, right? Like the fact that promotions they're not so exciting after a week. Or like breakups, they're not so bad after a few months. Everything is just changing. Everything's running out. I don't want that suffering. I want to be free from that. And not only, that's the second intention, not only do I want to get free from that because I want to, but I want to because I see that everyone is in that same boat. I don't see anyone in my world who isn't trying to get closer to the things they want and get away from the things they don't want. And in that way, we are all the same. That thing connects me to everyone. And so if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to learn this crazy dance, might as well do it and bring them along. Might as well keep them in mind as I do it. And again, bigger cause, am I doing it just for me or am I doing it for all beings that I perceive with my mind? Bigger cause, massive result. Yeah, it's like my sister said it today, you know, like she's getting exasperated at people who still aren't following social distancing. And she's like, why can't people just remember that it's not for them? It's not just about them, it's about the safety of everyone. You know, she just like was getting really annoyed about that. And I was thinking about it and it's like, I think it's because of that habit we have. All the time we're thinking about ourselves. That's the nature of being human. I have to clothe this thing. I have to feed this thing. I have to do things with this thing. It's like, that's the habit. That's the language our mind is speaking all day long. Bodhisattva, you have a different thing going on here. You're saying, how can I infect every single thing with thinking about others? So having the 3 intentions, if you have that in your mind, it's going to be very sweet to follow the vows. It's going to be easy because you're going to already be doing them. Third attitude to keep your vows well, Dompa Lang, which is to take the vows based on those first 2 things. So, and this is cool. And every teacher I've heard share this course says this. There's no need to rush yourself into taking these vows on as promises. It's actually very commendable, I think, to practice them as if you had them, but not yet take them. I think that plants a really powerful seed in your mind. Because then when you do take them, you have a conviction about them. And we're gonna talk about more, like, where does that confidence come from? We're gonna get to that. But there's a lot of integrity in that. Don't take them before you're ready. And what this one is saying is, if you want to keep your vows well, only take them once you have 1 and 2 solid in your mind. The other way I think about this one, and it's still evolving for me, is catching like whether, how do I put this? Is there any part of you that thinks that morality is to like make, how do I put this? It's because someone's watching, right? Like, let me be a good person because you know, because then I'll get points from mom. Or like, I was like a huge, what's it called? Like a goody two shoes in school, right? Like, you know, let me be the best student so then the teacher notices me. And it can apply to spiritual practice too. Oh, let me take the vows. That'll make my teacher happy. Or let me take the vows. There's some, maybe you have some subtle idea of like a karma, like point keeper out there. Someone's keeping track. Someone's watching me. Like, let me do this. Let me add this. These are a lot of karma points right here, taking vows. And none of those intentions are, you know, number 1 and 2 here. Until you get to the point where it's like, I'm going to do this because I am completely responsible. There's no one else watching. There's no one else in there in my mind with me. And for me, like, it was so freeing to actually, it felt like this was the first true decision I got to make in my life with that purity of motivation. Like, it's a little ironic, right? Because it was like, I'm not doing this for anyone else, but I'm doing it because I think it's the only thing I could ever do to actually serve everyone else. Does that make sense? Like, it was this, you know, you think that there's people out there watching you, keeping track or like keeping score, and you get to break free from that responsibility when you decide to become a bodhisattva and instead take on this personal responsibility for the entire world. It feels heavier, but it actually totally frees you. But I'm talking too much. That's number 3. Don't pa lang. Then 4, respect them as the highest thing. So here, this is my example of like the Buddhist, you know, you're stuck on an island, what would you bring with you? Ask yourself that. Like, it was really cool for me to like come to my parents' place. I had like an hour to pack. If you've noticed, I've like worn the same 2 things for the last 5 weeks of class. So I didn't pack that much. I didn't have that much stuff. But how much are you asking yourself every day, these things that you surround yourself with or crave more of, they're all gonna deteriorate. There's no possession that you can take with you. And in fact, like, the more you accumulate, the more mental moments you spend trying to keep track of them. Like, I see this happen with my parents all the time, and it like breaks my heart, because it's like the more you accumulate, you have the fancy house and the cars and all the things, and then all you do is spend all your time worrying about where those things are and if it's all okay. You know, and the thing is, like, and it's like this irony of like, you can't take any of that stuff with you. It's not really going to help you. These mental gifts that we have, these vows, these promises in our mind, especially the Bodhisattva vows, which actually stay with you beyond life, from lifetime to lifetime, they say. Really, if I was going to a deserted island and I had to pick one thing, this is what I would pick. An instruction manual for how to get out. It actually doesn't take any sort of outer possession, outer, you know, material thing. It's completely within me because it's something I'm creating. So if you can think about them that way, consider them to be your prized possession. That would be an attitude which would then make it very sweet and easy to keep them. And yes, Sam, a student always asks this question. If we took these in a prior life, would we know in this life that we had them or not? And the way I think about that is, if all of you are here on a Zoom call, you know, 9 p.m. talking about this stuff, like, you have a strong impression already in your mind. If you're attracted at all to this, like, if you see, now, this is what happens to me. If you see nuns and monks and you're like, those people are radical and fierce, like, they're not these people that are limiting their reality, but these people who represent morality, they're like rebels in the face of suffering. And they're saying like, no, there's another way out. It's going to look weird. It's going to look awkward. Me, you know, not doing the marriage and the collecting possessions thing, but there's an agenda here. And if that's attractive to you, or if like you're here studying this stuff, I mean, it's not the first time. That's one way I think about it, to get to find this Dharma again. And yeah, you don't know if you took them in a previous life. So why not act as if you did? Just see what it does. See what it does to you, to your life, if you do. That's a fun contemplation too, to take to the cushion. So you're respecting them as the highest thing, your prized possession. Do I have anything there? Yeah, every other possession I have will deteriorate no matter how much I take care of it. These things in your mind are the only thing that you can actually take with you. And then, so if you have the attitude of wanting to avoid breaking them, so it's what you were saying, Zoe, actually, that fear of, okay, these like things sound great, but now I'm just really afraid that I'm going to break them. Actually having that attitude is what's going to allow you to keep them well. So you can sort of flip that that voice in your head using this. So avoid breaking them. And there's a couple of reasons, right? So one would be because of number 4, they say, like, because you think they're the most precious thing, that in itself will stop you from breaking them. But the other thing are real confessions, like real and regular confessions. And I know confessions has like a big, heavy connotation to it. Or it didn't for me, but like I know it does in other traditions, or like in the West. Here's the way I think about confession. It's like that feeling when you're on the phone with your best friend and you know that they have to love you no matter what, so you can say the like ickiest thing in your mind to them, right? You can be like, oh, okay, just get ready for this. It's gross. It wasn't my best moment, but I need to say it because I need to get it off my chest, right? Like we have that feeling of that, like that heaviness that comes, that clogging that comes with things that you've said or done or thought that you're not proud of, that you're like, I know that it's not making me feel good. It's not doing anything for my mind or my world. So regular confessions, it doesn't mean that you just take a stranger and be like, hey, Bodhisattva vow number 37, I need to confess to you. That's not the way to do confessions. They say it has to be someone who understands the purpose of the vows and that understands your motivation for having them. Because it's going to make the charge more, right? When you tell someone you admire a secret, it's different than telling a stranger off the street a secret. It's different for you. It's a different charge in your mind. So regular confessions to people who are on the path, to your spirit, to your Dharma brothers and sisters, your spiritual friends. That's who you confess to. And it feels really good. This happens to me a lot. Like now my texts or my phone calls with friends, it's like we'll catch up a bit and then we'll be like, okay, can we just like talk about all the stuff I did bad and all the stuff I did, like, can we just rejoice and confess a little bit? Like I need a clean start. And it should feel like that. It should feel like a clean slate. So these are attitudes to keep your vows well. And the one thing I want to underscore is like, because it took me a while to get this, is like, it's kind of saying like, if you have these 5 things in your mind, you're a candidate to become a bodhisattva. Like that's it. It doesn't mean you need to start wearing the mala or give away all your possessions, or what I thought I had to do which is after sort of hearing the bodhisattva thing and hearing the vows, I like went to my teacher and I was like, okay, I'm ready to serve you. I'm ready to serve the 3 jewels. I'm going to quit my job and I'm yours. Like, here you go. That was what I thought, it was like, okay, I have to keep my vows well. I have to be a bodhisattva. I need to renounce this life. And it was beautiful. He said to me, yeah, okay, quit your job, but do it by staying in your job. Like that was the answer I got. I still remember we were eating French fries at Cafe Lafayette across from 3 Jewels. It's like a very diamond cutter answer, right? Like, yeah, quit your job by staying in your job. So what does that mean? Quit the job that you think exists self-existently from its own side. Right? Quit the job that you think, quit the promotion you think comes from getting ahead, from watching out for yourself, from making sure your name's at the top of the report. Quit that job and throw yourself into the job that is, how can I take care of other minds in this playground that I'm calling an office? Right? What better place to practice the 6 perfections than an office? Plenty of chances to get angry, plenty of chances to want praise and gain and want to criticize others. Plenty of chances to practice focus when I'm at my computer doing Excel analysis. Am I practicing focus and creating the causes for a strong meditation, or am I doing data analysis? Because the data analysis, the reports, the most beautiful insights I came up with, that all those presentations, they're not gonna last. They're gonna be forgotten about. But it's this playground for practice. And so I just bring that up because these are really the only requirements to be a bodhisattva. It's saying, like, these are the things you need in your mind to keep your vows well. It doesn't mean you need to uproot your life. It doesn't mean you need to even add, like, I'm worried that this class is starting to sound like, add more to do more things. And I don't want it to be that. It's actually look at the one thing that touches everything else. Your mind, right? The common denominator within every single experience that you're having. And work there, right? Stop trying to weed and clip the tops of plants or stick other things in the soil, and just get to the soil. Just get to the base there and do your work there. Of course, then the garden is going to change. Of course, things are going to sprout. Why am I talking about gardening? Yeah, there's no, okay. Yeah, I think hopefully that landed, but just keep that in mind. Whatever you thought a bodhisattva was, maybe you had some sort of conception of what that was before this course. I hope now you're getting turned on by the idea that it's your very life. It's exactly who you are now and what you're doing and the beings around you that this instruction manual is for, that this dance is for. It's an internal thing that you're changing, and then everything else will change. But it's not another thing to add to your to-do list. I hope it's not. Okay. I'm moving slower than I thought, but I'm gonna speed through. So 5 levels of seriousness of breaking the vows. Yeah, we can go quick through this. So this is, we touched on a few of these before, but oh gosh, this is just going. Okay. Let me just get them all on the screen and then we'll go. So 5 levels of seriousness to keep in mind. The first one is remember the nature of the vow you're breaking. Is it a root or a secondary vow? And we've talked about the difference between that. So I'll leave it at that. The second level of seriousness is the instigator, like what made you break it? And from least to most serious there. So the least serious would be that you just forgot or you didn't know. The second one would be having a klesha attack, having a mental affliction attack, where your mind is so clouded by anger or jealousy or something like that, and then you broke the vow. And then the third level of seriousness would be breaking it purposefully. So going out and being like, I want to do X, Y, Z. So what made you break it? That's one of the levels of seriousness. Then the third one, having the 3 poisons in your mind. So let's spend a second here because this is really important. For those in the Wheel of Life course, this hopefully sounds familiar. But the 3 poisons, they're essentially 3 substances in our mind, states in our mind, that keep us normal, that keep us thinking that we are just a normal human going through this life towards an inevitable end, and that's it. The 3 poisons are, they're we're actually going to start with the last one, which is ignorance itself, represented by the pig, I think, right? The pig in the center of the wheel of life. And ignorance itself, it's this backward misunderstanding about the way things actually are. So with that ignorance, you get the first two poisons. Because of the way you see the world, you have ignorant liking, which means I see something I like, I need to get more of it and keep it close to me. What's ignorant about that is that it's karmically backwards. If you want something, the only way to guarantee that you will run out of it is by hoarding it, by saying, I want it, it's mine. The opposite of that is wisdom, is showing your mind, oh, here's this thing that is empty of a nature, but for some reason I like it. Show your mind by giving it away to others, right? Who's gonna register that in their mind? Your mind watches you give this thing that brings you joy away to others, hoping it gives others joy too. That is planting a seed that functions in your mind to then result in more of that thing later. Opposite of that, the poison is ignorantly liking or ignorantly disliking. I don't like you. I'm going to do everything I can to avoid you. Karmically backwards, because it in fact guarantees that sort of hatred, that sort of ignorant disliking, not recognizing where that thing is coming from. It's the only way to guarantee that you're going to see more of it in the future, that pushing it away. So if you have those in your mind, that's adding to the level of seriousness of breaking the vows. The fourth one is the object, meaning the type of object, all things being equal, how close was that consciousness to enlightenment? So for example, this would be like harming the life of an animal versus a human. Not because we don't care and love animals, but because if you are just pragmatic about how close is that consciousness to being evolved enough to get enlightened for the sake of all beings, to actually be of service to all beings. Okay, well then a human is closer to the possibility of enlightenment than an animal. It's just that. Today my family had not an argument, but a discussion about the consciousness of our Roomba, our little robot vacuum. And I thought about this then. So the type of object towards which you commit the vow. And then the fifth one is the accumulation of those vows in your mind. So it's saying when you have a low amount or few, that would be like you could count them on one hand kind of thing. Or even a medium amount, you can still count them. Maybe it's like a dozen or so versus a heavy sort of load of that vow breaking in your mind, like more than you can count, you've broken them. And just think, so yeah, that would contribute to the level of seriousness. Like, is it a low level radiation or is it like this toxic lethal dose of the vows you've broken, the vows you don't care about? So 5 levels of seriousness there. And then, okay, I'm gonna speed through this so we can get to the last part, which is really sweet. 4 causes of breakage. I mean, we've sort of talked about this, but it's nice and summarized here. And what's cool is it gives you the 4 causes of breakage and their antidotes or anecdotes, like Mackenzie says, which I love. So one cause of breakage is not knowing your vows. Like, you're gonna break them if you don't know them. So that doesn't apply to any of you because you've been in this course and you know the vows. Like, you know what it means when it says don't destroy towns, right? Like, we've talked about what that actually means. What does it mean to protect? Like, why would you protect others' property? So that's one of the causes of breakage. You don't actually have to worry about that because you know them, and better than that, you are committed to becoming a master of them, right? You're trying to master your vows, not just know them. Second one would be this carelessness, laziness, forgetfulness. The antidote, it's actually the same thing you use in meditation. So if you've meditated at 3 Jewels before, you know that we have an object of focus. And the whole idea of the meditation is to glide your awareness back to that object over and over again. These vows are just your object, your meditation object when your eyes are open and you're going through your day. It's a moving meditation through your day. Here's the object. It's whatever vow you're keeping at that time. So you use the same muscles that you use in meditation, watchfulness and recollection. Watchfulness, is my mind straying too far? Right? Am I getting hooked by fancy appearances? Recollection, remember, what is it that I promised to do? What's my object? Watchfulness and recollection. So those, you have those antidotes. Cause of breakage, klesha attack, mental affliction attack. Antidote here is identify your worst enemy and work with it. Like, it's going to be different for every person. I've said to you all, like, anger was never a thing or it wasn't a thing I was working with in a big way, but I got home and all of a sudden it's like, cool, here's a new enemy to get to know in your own mind. So you have to figure that out. Are you more prone to being angry or lazy or jealous? And it's beautiful because this philosophy is just saying, okay, whatever your biggest affliction is, do the opposite of that and do it to as many people as you can. You're a jealous person, you tend to just be envious. Like anything comes up and you're like, ooh, why isn't that happening for me? Become the person who just praises people. I mean, and mean it. Or it might feel contrived at the beginning, but you go around just everyone you come into contact with, make sure you say something that you enjoy about them. And break that mental habit of jealousy. So you have to identify your biggest mental affliction and work with it. And then the fourth cause of breakage is disrespecting your vows, or the Buddha, or an enlightened mind, or the possibility of an enlightened mind that could give you these vows. And I love this antidote. Have respect because of the results you see. This, and it gets back to your question too, Kelly. It's basically what you're starting to do is you're retraining your mind here. So, for example, I'll use The Office since it's where I play. It's normal to think, oh, okay, I got my first promotion at my office because I had the Ivy League degree and I'm really smart and competent at what I do. That's one level of truth, right? That's only one level of truth, that, oh, I'm smart and I have the degree and so I get the promotion. I know it's only one level of truth because there's plenty of smart people out there. There's plenty of Ivy League degree holders that don't get promotions. Or there's plenty of people that enjoy professional success and they don't have those credentials. So it's one level of truth. What I got to start to do in keeping my vows at the office is connect every worldly experience that I was having, every promotion, every cool project I got to work on, every new team I was given to manage, with my practice of morality, with the highest truth, the thing that actually makes things work, right? It's no longer, oh, I'm getting this professional experience because I have the degree, one level of truth. It's the higher truth of, I'm experiencing this reality because of something that I did, said, or thought in the past. It's a reflection of something I put in my mind. That exchange with your world, that responsibility for your world. You start to code everything that's happening in your life, good or bad, as a reflection of your morality. Oh, I see a lot of people dying in my world right now. I must have done something to not protect life. It's that. And then the opposite. I see a lot of people showing up and taking care of others in brave and beautiful ways. I must have done something to protect life in the past. And I want more of that experience. I want to see people heal. I want to see people come together again. I need to go into my mind and do that. I need to make it happen in my world. Cause, effect. Because it's, yes. So I'm going to stop there. So that's fourth cause of breakage is disrespecting your vows. Respect them, not because I'm saying to, not just because they're coming from an enlightened mind. Respect them because you see them make you happy in your life, like give you results in ways that are faster and more exhilarating than anything else you've ever tried. It's like how the karmic experiments, right, that you create in the lab of your life and you see them start to work. Rejoice in those, pay attention to those, start to respect those. And as a result, you're respecting your morality. Okay, this is what I wanted to get to. So there are 5 temporary benefits and 1 ultimate benefit of keeping these vows, of doing this 6 times a day practice with this long list of things that we've been studying. And hopefully they make you excited. And you're like, I want these things. But they're sweet. The first one is that enlightened beings, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, attend to those who follow this morality. And that's because it's the same dance that got them to where they are. Right? Like they know all these moves. They know how awkward they can feel, or they know how freeing they can feel because they've done them. They've done this dance. It's the same moves they've used it to get somewhere. So they start to pay attention. They start to hang around you. They'll start to give you signs that they're there. The second temporary benefit is great happiness in your final hours. It's this sort of cleanness that comes with the end of the perception of the end of this life. It's getting to die without regrets. Right? If every day you're cleaning your mind of regrets and you're keeping that clean conscience, whenever that moment comes for you, whatever that experience is, you're not going to have that weighing heavy on you. And it's said that yes, this body is going to deteriorate and start to die at that moment, but the mind is made out of mind stuff. It's going to keep going. And it's going to carry with it everything that was in it before. So you had regrets, well, those are coming with you. You had vows, well, those are coming with you. You had a moment of pure bodhicitta at that time of, okay, well, if I have to experience the pain of death, let in that moment me take away all pain everywhere for all beings. Let that die too with me. That result's going to come with you. So that's the second benefit. The third one, you get to live with bodhisattvas of a similar type after the body dies. So Sam, this makes me think of your question of like, how did we find each other? Like, where did we all come from, and why is it that we not only crossed paths but had a strong enough imprint with each other that we would log on to a Zoom call to talk about this stuff in the middle of a global pandemic, right? And for me, that was so sexy for me, like to come to Three Jewels and see people like really into morality and having an amazing time. You know, like it wasn't like they were into morality and they were like these stoic, isolated people. Like they were going out and creating joy in their world. Like I remember this, like, I mean, and I still feel it. It's like you go out to dinner with Three Jewels people and like all they do is make the waiter feel really loved and laugh a lot. I'd be like, whoa, who are these people that just like go around and make everyone else feel like they're best friends with them? Like that, like where do you get people like that? And that's just the appearance of what they're doing. And then if you were to reach into their heart, you would see that they have this wish, like this deep wish of, I want to get enlightened for the sake of all these beings. I want to actually be able to love them. And I want to have the wisdom, the mind that's able to see them for who they really are. You have access to even that type of community after the body dies. It's saying when you take your vows, and you get a limitless mountain of merit. As in, This is the difference between doing a good thing mindlessly versus doing it with the wish to get enlightened for the sake of all beings, versus doing it with bodhicitta. Right? It's like what we were talking about in the beginning. It's going to look this, it might look the same on the outside, but why are you doing it? And hopefully a takeaway, hopefully a takeaway from every class, and I can't say it enough, and I can't try to practice it enough so it becomes real, is that a single thing you do with bodhicitta, with that intention, that strength, is better, is infinitely, immeasurably stronger in your consciousness than anything you do otherwise. Like, it's the thing that makes other things, that makes it all work, that actually turns it all on. I feel like I'm not describing that as well as I'd want to right now, but I hope it's moving something in you. Okay, and then the fifth one, you become a master of the same morality automatically in future lives. So the way I think about this is like whatever, we all have different degrees of friction when it comes to keeping vows or studying morality, right? Like for some of you, this might be like, whoa, this is amazing. I've been waiting my whole life to just like get the instructions, but this totally makes sense to me. And for some, it might be like, this is weird. I don't know if I want to do this. It feels strange or whatever it is. But where does that, like those different, what's the word? Like proclivities come from, right? Why for some people does morality come easier? We all have a shared base of morality. Like none of you are going out thinking that killing people is okay. But for some people, like that's, they're functioning humans with consciousnesses, and it is okay. It's not a problem for them. So where does that difference come from? So you'd automatically become a master of the same morality in future lives. But then the most important thing, that ultimate benefit, so these are all temporary benefits. And temporary, JJ, to your question, I guess it's not just this life, right? It's this life and beyond, but it's still it's within the cycle. But benefits. But the ultimate benefit, the ultimate promise of these promises is that if you were really to perfect your morality, you could reach enlightenment for the sake of all beings. Like if you were really able to transform that soil of your consciousness, the mind, it evolved that mind enough, you'd be forced to, the same world, the same reality that we're in, you would be forced to see it in a different way because the lens is different. That's the ultimate benefit of these vows. That's the reason to keep them. Yes, they're going to make your life better. Yes, they're going to make things happen faster. Yes, you're going to get to hang out with cool Bodhisattva homies. But really, the real benefit is you're going to get enlightened for the sake of all beings. Okay. I really sped through that. I'm sorry if that was too, oh wow, cool. This meme is how I feel right now. But also, it is to remind me, thank you to Lauren for this meme. It's, I think it's either Je Tsongkapa or Master Asanga, but they have a direction at the end of this, teaching about the vows is don't practice at your capacity. Like that's really important. Don't try to be someone you're not. Like that's gonna just plant a weird seed in your mind, right? Practice at your capacity. Don't overextend yourself. If it's not a 6 times a day book, start with the 3 times a day book. Start with a 1 time a day book. Pick 1 vow a day and just see what happens for a week. I mean, it might not be that fast, but it might. So yeah, thank you for this meme. And this is also how I feel a little right now. I'm sorry if I sort of rushed through that. I thought it would be a shorter class somehow. I was like, oh, there's less content. But I can't talk enough about these things because I feel like I'm still not fully aware of the benefits that they're bringing me. Like, I feel like I'm on the Bodhisattva Vows are like this conveyor belt I got on, and I'm just like trying to stay on, but it's moving really fast. And I can't help but see this world completely transform in front of me. And it's very clear for me now since I'm home, right? And I'm like with this family that I've always had, or with this home I've always had, but it's completely different. The experience of it is totally different. So all I can say is, oh, there's something in here that's changing. Like, that's cool. I want more of that. I want that to happen faster. I really want it to happen faster so I can share this stuff clearer, and in the way that it was given to me, which is like this gift that just keeps delivering. So thank you for letting me try and giving me something to practice for, because it really feels that way. There was a lot of vows which I technically had, but I wasn't practicing until this container of this course showed up. Like, I just didn't have the opportunity to, I didn't have, I just didn't have the opportunity to get to come up against that vow. So thank you for that. And let's give it all away before it's too late, and then let's stay on the line and we can talk announcements and next week and such. So any charge that you feel, any exhilaration that this is actually possible. Especially that you could start again. Like, this could be the moment from this day on. What if I experience this mind like a bodhisattva's mind? That the energy behind that, the brightness behind that, feeling it like radiance that's just shining out and reaching anyone and everyone. Like the sun, it doesn't decide who to shine for. It just shines. So giving it all away, hoping that it grows. Echoing back to you the most perfect, personal, enlightened paradise. Sashi Puki Jingxing Metok Cham Rira Lingxin Nde Genpa Sange Shingdu Mikte Wargi Drokun Namdak Shingla Drupar Shuk Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kam Niryataya Gewa Di Kewok Sunam Yeshe Sok Shin Sunam Yeshe Vijum Dampan Kuni Topar Shu. Okay, I'm going to leave this announcement up. Hopefully you all just also received an email about it, but I want to make sure you know, or actually if Tyler's still on the line, please unmute yourself and you can deliver this announcement yourself, because he's very much the reason that it exists.
Hey, yeah.
Okay, cool, perfect.
I am. Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I reached out to some people about trying to get started some sort of debate offering through 3 Jewels, because I felt like that was something that was kind of missing in the current offerings at 3 Jewels. There are opportunities for it, but like I found in particular, like ACI courses, everybody being a square on a screen and having so many people in them, and the fact that they always run over, almost without exception, makes like opportunities to debate less common than I personally would like. And it's also a huge part of like Buddhist, like particularly Tibetan Buddhist scholarship. And so it seemed like something that could be improved on. I've been thinking about it for a long time, actually, many months, and then COVID happened, and I thought that doing a debate club could potentially be a much more engaging way to use Zoom than things like ACI or things like yoga and meditation classes, because they're very like naturally engaging. People, I'm hoping we make a lot of use of breakout rooms and smaller groups with just a few squares on the screen instead, and engage with the material that we're learning in these other classes in a more targeted way. And I'm very, very excited about it. Those of you who know me know I'm a pretty debatey person. I like getting into this kind of stuff, and I'm very excited about doing something formal with it. And so I didn't really know what it was that I was trying to make happen, and I kind of put out some feelers and got connected with Ben Kramer, who was the debate master at Diamond Mountain Retreat Center, founded by Geshe Michael, and he offered to teach a class. So it's going to be a 4-course class. It's going to kind of kick off this offering, and about an hour and a half each day, starting tomorrow at 7:30. And I'm very, very excited about it. I hope y'all can join. Anybody who can, please do.
Sweet. And if anyone wants to join this and didn't get the email about it, reach out to me, Supriya at 3jewels.org, or Tyler, if you don't mind sharing your email, feel free to throw that in the chat.
I'll stick in the chat. Also,
I think it's also on the website.
Yeah, I think so. And Rachel, like a shout out to Rachel for helping me kind of deal with some of the logistics. Well, I answer Sam's question. And so I don't know for certain. I know that, Ben has taught this class a few times previously. Sam asked, will we be debating ourselves as participants? I believe that as he described it, a lot of at least the first couple of classes are going to be learning the structure, and it's going to be participatory. Like, you're kind of going to be obligated to participate, provide responses to prompts that he gives. I'm not sure how much we're actually going to be debating in the class itself. I'm taking the class along with everybody else, so I don't really know 100% what to expect out of it. But my hope, again, my hope is that, once the world opens back up and we can start using 3 Jewels for this, that we have, a weekly thing that people can come to and debate. And that's the whole point of it. That's what you're coming there to do. Buddhist monks do this for 3 hours every day. It's like a huge part of what you do as a monk. And so I like the idea of trying to create something like that at 3 Jewels. I don't know how much of that will happen during these classes, but we'll see. If we can't make the debate, will it be recorded? I intend to record it. I'll make sure it gets recorded.
Yeah, from what I remember, Tyler, Ben saying, like, you're basically getting to learn a new language through this course, and it's not just Tibetan, though you will learn Tibetan, but Buddhist debate, it's actually like 4 things you need to, that's why it's a 4-week series, but like 4 responses that you're allowed to respond with. And those 4 encompass the response you could ever have to any sort of argument. So they're very precise, and you just get to learn when to use each. And so from what I remember Ben saying, Tyler, I think like, week 1, you learn the first response, and it's like you would get a chance, you'd go around, and someone would put forward what's it called? What's the 3-part statement thing called? Emmett knows.
Just a reason.
A reason, yeah. or a reasoned assertion, statement. And then you'd all practice if you're in that workshop giving, how would you give answer number 1 to that, for example? So yeah, I do believe that it's very much going to be interactive.
My hope also, so I think Ben, additionally, Earl, who anybody who was in MTT met, Earl Burney, is going to be participating also. And I think that some of this, like one thing that I really want to happen, so if it's not already planned, I'm going to try to make it a thing, is a demo between the two of them, because they've debated in the past, and so to like have an opportunity to watch some seasoned debaters debate. And I'm like Supriya mentioned, I'm particularly interested in it because I've been a debate person my whole life, but it's always been a very Western style of debate, and the Tibetan Buddhist style is very specific. It's highly structured, and I'm very interested to see what that does, like how that changes what these debates feel like. So yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I'll follow up over email as well about, for this course, just know next week, it'll be business as usual, and we're just gonna go over the final exam, and we can even like do it together. I'll figure out exactly the structure. Probably use some combination of breakout rooms and just talking through it, but I'd love for you to feel like you have the space to just do it together. And all the final exam questions are questions you've seen before. They're all going to come from the homework. And then I'm hoping I'll give you more details as it comes together, but hoping to invite Hector to join us for the week after to do a special class. And that would technically be the date, I think, where we were scheduled to have the vow ceremony. So we'll try to do something special. I don't yet know what it's going to be, but it'll be fun, I hope. Yeah, so I'll stick around. Feel free to unmute yourself and chat. And thanks all.
Thank you, Supriya.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, Suzanne.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Supriya.
Bye, Dr. Tyler.
Amit, thanks for being here.
Thanks for teaching this whole course.
It was fun.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, I'll see you. Bye, Je Tsongkapa. Oh, so I didn't know he was, I mean, I felt that he was there with us, but it's good to see him. For anyone who doesn't know, McSwain's cat is Jason Catpaw. Jason Catpaw. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
Good night.
Bye, Sheila. Oh, I should stop recording now when I get all silly.
I was going to say, Supriya, my takeaway was when you were talking about